everyone, thanks so much for joining me. In this video, we're going to explore the push-up, a really hard position. So much to try to keep organized and keep integrated. The most important thing to me, aside from, maintaining excellent posture, is the idea that minis count. You do not have to go into the deepest expression of the position for it to count as a real push-up. Okay, so I think that's like some sort of memory from our past, from childhood PE classes, but the depth will come in time if that's a goal. Okay, you will still work really hard by doing little movements. Okay, so just that's really important to me. We're gonna do this at the wall. For this video, I'm only gonna show it in a couple different ways. So at the wall and on the floor, but you could absolutely have your hands on a bench or a step to keep it a doable exercise. But once you get to the floor, it's probably the toughest besides adding instability to it. So you can always make things harder, but I just mean in the standard push-up. Okay, I like to keep the shape of it. I'm not a big fan of bending the knees, putting them on the ground, but I'll show you why. For me, I just have a hard time keeping my spine in the position that I'm really seeking. So I really want to reaffirm neutral spine. I'm in classes where they'll cue to dome the upper back, and I understand why, because it's a really difficult position to keep a sense of organization. But I don't want to reaffirm this shape with my spine. Okay, so I don't want to do any exercises that do this. I really want to be here, even though it's harder, okay, to keep the shape. So I'll show it with just the idea of the shape with the foam roller, with a block, and then we'll get going. One thing I forgot to mention about the push-up, when you bend your elbows, it's as though you're squeezing a ball between your arm and your side. So you're still kind of hugging that energy in. The elbows don't go directly out to the sides because then you'd have a hard time keeping them grounded. They don't have to go right next to your body. They could, but they don't have to. That would be more of a chaturanga or tricep push-up. So they're somewhere in between, okay, and everyone has their right spacing, but where you feel like you're connecting to your side body. So most of the time, I don't have these things with me. I don't have a foam roller with me, and I don't have a block with me every time I'm doing push-ups in classes. But I imagine these things, as well as I imagine my feet at a wall. Okay, so I just want to show neutral spine. What I'm trying to mimic in my push-ups, I'm going to say pull-ups, is this sense of neutral. So from the center of my ear, center shoulder, hip, and I know my feet are forward, but still this length. I don't want to have a flat back because it collapses the chest and blocks the flow with the hips. So I want to keep a neutral pelvis that is a slight forward tilt. Everyone's looks slightly different, just depending on the curves of the spine. Okay, but I want to be here with my work, whether it's little or big. Okay, but I want to be reaffirming this length. Okay, it's hard. But I think it's worth it, because as you do that, you're keeping all your channels open and really building and connecting with integrated strength. I also imagine that I've got a block between my thighs to really keep my legs firmly engaged, because it's so easy for us to think that this is a total upper body move when really it's a whole body move. I don't even know where to put it in the category, because it truly is working at like every muscle in the body. Okay, and then finally, when I'm doing this on the floor, I imagine that my feet are pushing into something to reference, to give me power as I'm in this. But showing this at the wall, you find your right tilt, and also what works best for your wrists, because this is a kind of a different angle for this. Okay, so I'm on my tippy toes, plugged in, length, and trying to connect with all of those references. And then starting here. So just getting a sense of how do you feel, okay, across the shoulders, across the back, the neck. As teachers, I watch for, I don't want this, and I don't want this, okay? So I don't want any sort of exaggeration. And I don't want the head, dangling like this. So I'm looking for that sense of, and sometimes I'll even put the foam roller on someone's spine so that they can, feel how they need to adjust. Or we put a block. In my classes, we'll put a block in between the thighs. Okay, so having the tools that make it helpful. Now we'll go to the floor. So when it comes to doing this on the floor, okay, so many things. It just becomes, I think, harder and harder to organize. And the more flexible you are, the harder it is. You know, if your elbows are hypermobile, they're going to want to go in, right? And it's going to feel like you're really bending them when you're not. And you don't want to feel that hard stop in as you straighten and bend. You know, you want it to feel like it has a flow. If you're going to err in one direction as far as with the positioning of the seat, I'd rather it be too high than too low. Okay, if you're too high, you're on your way more toward a down dog push-up, but I rather that than cutting off the flow at the low back. Okay, so many things to consider. So I'll bend my elbows to then hug an imaginary beach ball between my arms and send the sternum forward. So this really starts to help the spine get into alignment. And then taking each leg back, okay, and again, having that idea that as though my heels are up at a wall, as though I have a block between my thighs, as though I have a foam roller on my back, okay, along my spine. So it usually takes me a minute to kind of get into the position, but now I'm powered up. Like I said, I'd rather this be a little too high than, you know, too low, okay? So reaffirming all that and then going, okay, if I bend this much, I feel in control and I can go back. Okay, maybe if I bend this much, okay, maybe I'm still in control or not. Okay, so you can decide to what degree, to what depth will you go and be able to sustain it, reaffirm, and enter and exit, okay, in a way that feels really good. Good on all the joints, challenging for all of the muscles. I'll come back into it in a second, but the thing about the wrists, you could do this with handles. You don't want to put too much cushion underneath your hands because you don't want it to increase the challenge to the wrists. So you really need to find that place where you can root across your hands evenly, and just like you're hugging a block between your thighs, hugging that imaginary beach ball, right? You want to distribute the weight evenly across the hands. We tend to put too much weight on the outer edges, and that impacts the shoulder rotator area. Okay, so you want to distribute that weight, pull that energy up in toward the midline. Okay, so now I'll show for me. Okay, so I'll come into the full and then show bringing the knees down and trying to do it with the knees on the ground. So coming back into this, lengthen, right? Not letting the head drop, and then taking the knees down. Okay, coming in there. It for me is really challenging to feel this sense of the line. You know, since I use my feet as a reference, feet at the wall as a reference, then I have my knees on the ground. You'd think it would be a seamless path, but for me, I feel like I lose some of that connection. So I rather keep it either at an upward angle at the wall or put a bench or a step underneath the arms. Okay, and then, kind of make your way toward the floor, learning how to have that integrated strength. That's just me. If you feel really organized with your knees down, you're still connecting with all the strength and the power, you're feeling all your joints feel good, go for it there. I just wanted to share, I lose it, okay? So you gotta find your right position, your right depth, and stay safe. And I hope, maybe that it feels like a good thing to explore, trying to do this to reaffirm excellent posture, the kind of posture you want when you're upright, okay? So I hope that this was helpful, that you have a great day. Namaste.